I think, though, that one thing I must say that stands out crystal clear to me was probably the most important thing I did was ask the question, what's the difference between Black women's health issues and white women's health issues? Mostly because that placed an emphasis on looking at us based on our ethnicity, our culture, our subculture, the way we were reared, the things that go on in our life and how that affects our health. And the fact that we as Black women have different perspectives. I was really perplexed by when white women got together. Really, most of the things they only wanted to talk about were reproductive issues. But when Black women got together and we started talking about health, we started talking about different things. We started talking about things that had to do with psychological well-being. We started talking about issues that were affecting our lives, violence, sexual abuse. But also white women were talking about these things, but they were not priorities. And reproductive health, Black women would use reproductive health services, but they were not priorities. We look at the lives of people who live on lower incomes, who struggle on lower incomes, and they have a lot to overcome. And a lot of their perspectives are not articulated. What we hear articulated are really the voices of the middle class. That's what people continue to care about, the middle class. They seem to be the largest group. They seem to be the group that's sort of in the middle and the safest group to talk about. I chose to find out from women who lived on lower incomes what the perspectives were and what they were dealing with. And it was always my belief that if we were raised, and it was always my belief that if we raised the standard of women of color and lower incomes, that we raised it for everyone. I think it's very important for younger women to gather as many of the cross-cultural reproductive health experiences of women that they can, because they need to show that this is not just something like being in charge of your fertility, your reproduction. It's not just something for American women, European women, that across all cultures from the beginning of time, this has been something that has been passed from woman to woman. And that we need to know how Asian women handle it. How do Southeast Asians handle it? How Indians handle it? How everybody handles it. So we have in our psyches a legend of how women have handled reproduction throughout the ages. And sometimes that will be what will give us the courage to give us our strength, because as we look back, we find out that these women ran into difficulties, that they ran into backlashes, that they ran into antis, but that they ran into people who were grateful for the help that they were able to give. That is important to learn about the life of the grand wives in the South and how they took care of women who had babies, how they helped women who had far too many babies and didn't want to have other babies, how they handled women who had been victims of rape, how they handled women who were victims of incest, how they worked with everything in a non-judgmental way that I think is really, there's a lesson in there for all of us. So I think, do your homework. Talk to other women. This is not necessarily something you get from books. Go up to women, start a conversation, have them talk to their relatives, wherever they are, so that we can stop having us think that this is something unique at this time that's going on. It's been going on throughout the ages, and it will continue.